Ladies and gentlemen, good day, my friends. Today, I want to speak to you about a profound truth that is often overlooked in the midst of our struggles and challenges. It is the truth that God is always at work, preparing you for a new season of greatness. The key to moving forward, to embracing the fullness of what God has for you, is to recognize that you are not stuck. Rather, you are being prepared. Life is often compared to a journey, a progression through different stages that shape and mold our experiences. This journey, however, is not linear and is not static. It is cyclical, a continuous series of seasons that come and go, each season marked by its own unique characteristics. Just like the physical seasons of the year, where winter gives way to spring, summer follows fall, and back again, life has seasons that play vital roles in shaping our purpose and destiny. To understand where you are and where you are going, it's essential to recognize the different seasons in your life and appreciate the purpose behind each one. The idea of seasons in life may seem abstract at first, but once you truly understand this concept, it becomes easier to navigate the challenges and opportunities that arise. A season is not just a period of time, it is a distinct phase of growth, development, or transition. And just as in nature, the different seasons serve different purposes. For instance, winter is a time of rest, preparation, and sometimes even dormancy for trees and plants, but it is essential for the rebirth of life that comes in spring. Similarly, every phase of our lives, even those that feel dormant or challenging, serves a greater purpose that leads to the next phase of growth. Each season is also an opportunity for us to learn something new about ourselves and the world around us. The winter seasons of our lives, those times when we feel alone or uncertain, or when things seem to be falling apart, are often the most formative. It is in these seasons that we build strength, resilience, and patience. It's easy to see progress and growth when everything is going well, when we're in a season of abundance or success, but it is during the winter moments when things seem still or even difficult that true transformation often takes place. The spring season, on the other hand, is a time of renewal and blossoming. It's a season that follows the hardships of winter, a season where new opportunities begin to emerge. You may find that new relationships, projects, or opportunities begin to bloom during this time. But the key to understanding this is to remember that spring would not be possible without the preparation that occurred in the earlier seasons. You cannot have a spring without the quiet, sometimes painful processes that take place during the fall and winter. In life, there are seasons where we are planting seeds, preparing the soil, and doing the unseen work of personal growth. These times may feel slow, even frustrating, but they are crucial for the success and fruitfulness that follow. Summer is often seen as the season of harvest, the time when all the hard work that we've put in begins to pay off. It's when the fruits of our labor are most visible, when we see tangible results from the seeds that were sown in the earlier seasons. But even summer requires work. It's a time of hard labor, of maintaining what has been grown and ensuring that the harvest is protected and sustained. It's also the season when we must be mindful of the challenges that come with growth, whether it's managing the increased demands of success or finding ways to sustain the progress we've made. It's a time to reap, but also a time to tend, nurture, and protect what has been achieved. The final season before winter is a season of reflection and transition. It's a time to gather the lessons learned, assess what has worked, and prepare for the next cycle. In the natural world, fall is when leaves change color, when plants begin to shed their old leaves, making way for new growth. It's a season of letting go, of acknowledging that some things must be released in order to make room for the new. Similarly, in life, fall represents the end of one chapter, a time to evaluate where you've been and prepare for what is next. It's a season of transition when we gather the wisdom from past seasons and move forward with renewed understanding. The challenge in life comes when we fail to recognize the importance of these various seasons, especially when we're in a difficult one. Too often, when we're in winter, we can't see the coming spring. When we're in fall, we might resist the change that is necessary for the next phase of growth. The key to understanding seasons is recognizing that each one is part of a divine plan, a perfect design that ensures our continued development. No season is wasted, no experience is meaningless, and no challenge is without purpose. Every season is leading us to the next, preparing us for what we will need in the future. Understanding that life is made up of seasons gives us the ability to approach each one with the right perspective. In the seasons of waiting or difficulty, we can rest in the knowledge that something better is coming. In the seasons of abundance or success, we can be mindful of the responsibility and stewardship that comes with it. It's a mindset shift, one that encourages patience, trust, and faith. When you embrace the idea that life is made up of seasons, you begin to view every moment as part of the grand design. The challenges you face are not obstacles, but opportunities to grow. The waiting periods are not wasted time, but divine preparation for what lies ahead. And as you move through each season, you begin to see that every phase, whether it feels difficult or easy, has a purpose. And each one brings you closer to the person you are meant to become. Understanding the seasons of life is key to living with purpose, direction, and confidence. We often face seasons where nothing seems to be moving forward. It's as if we're stuck in a waiting room, uncertain about what comes next. These moments of stillness can feel uncomfortable, frustrating, and even disheartening. Yet it is in these seasons of preparation, those times when life feels like it's not progressing, that the most profound changes occur. Preparation is not always an immediate or visible process, but it is always essential for what is to come. When we think of preparation, we often imagine the planning and action that lead to immediate results, such as preparing for an exam, a presentation, or a big event. However, the preparation we often overlook is the internal, unseen work that happens in the background. Just as a seed must first break apart in the soil before it can sprout, you too must go through a period of breaking, pruning, and refining before you can grow into your fullest potential. This kind of preparation isn't flashy, it isn't immediate. It's uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but ultimately necessary. This is where many people go wrong. They mistake the discomfort of the preparation phase for failure. It's easy to believe that when things are not moving forward or progressing, that something is wrong. But this is where true growth happens. When a tree's roots grow deeper into the ground, it doesn't happen in plain sight. It happens beneath the surface, unseen and unnoticed. Similarly, your growth is often happening in the unseen moments during seasons of silence or struggle when nothing seems to be changing on the outside. In these moments, God is preparing you for something much bigger, something that requires greater strength, wisdom, and resilience. Preparation doesn't just involve waiting, it involves becoming. In this season, God is shaping your character, refining your values, and strengthening your faith. See, it's easy to focus on the things we can see, the external achievements, the tangible successes, but often the most important preparations happen in the internal realm. Consider athletes in training. They endure long hours of practice, repetition, and discipline, none of which are seen by the public eye. The results of this preparation become visible only when they step onto the field or the stage, but it is their unseen hours of practice that make them who they are when the world watches. Similarly, in our lives, the unseen work, those moments when no one is watching, when we are quietly honing our skills, learning patience, and building inner strength, is what enables us to succeed when the time comes. Another aspect of preparation is the development of wisdom. Wisdom comes from experiences, both good and bad. Sometimes we learn the most valuable lessons not during times of success, but in moments of failure and disappointment. It is in these moments that we find our true strength, when we realize we are capable of handling things we once thought impossible. Life's trials are not just obstacles, they are opportunities for growth. God uses these moments to prepare you for the weight of the success that is to come. If you rush through these seasons, avoiding the discomfort and challenges, you risk missing out on the deeper lessons that are meant to shape you. The preparation season also requires a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing these periods of waiting or struggle as a time of stagnation, view them as a time of planting, sowing, and building. Think of a gardener preparing the soil before planting. The soil must be tilled, fertilized, and cleared of any weeds or obstacle before the seeds can be sown. This process can be grueling, but it's necessary for a successful harvest. Similarly, in our own lives, God is tilling the soil of our hearts, removing the impurities and positioning us for the future. This isn't a passive process that requires active engagement. During this season of preparation, you must be intentional about what you're learning, how you're growing, and how you're aligning yourself with God's purpose. Patience is one of the greatest lessons that preparation teaches. Many people find it difficult to wait for their breakthrough, but there's a divine purpose in this waiting. God's timing is always perfect, and it's crucial to trust that even though you may not see immediate results, He is at work behind the scenes. Sometimes we want things to happen quickly because we believe that success equals validation, or we may feel as though we're falling behind. However, this mindset can lead to frustration and impatience. The truth is that often the longer the preparation, the greater the outcome. The depth of your preparation will determine the height of your success. During these times of preparation, it's important to focus on what God is doing in you, not just what is happening around you. The external circumstances may not show immediate change, but internally, God is doing a deep work in your spirit. He is building your character, fortifying your faith, and strengthening your resolve. This kind of preparation is not about instant gratification, but about being molded into the person who can handle the responsibility, influence, and success that lie ahead. When you find yourself in a season of preparation, embrace it. Instead of resisting or wishing for things to move faster, recognize the divine purpose in the process. This is the season when you are being equipped, refined, and positioned for something greater. Just as the caterpillar must go through the struggle of transforming into a butterfly, you too must go through a period of preparation before you can step into fullness of your destiny. The discomfort, the waiting, and the hidden work are not signs of delay. They are evidence of God's hand at work, preparing you for the next level. So trust the process, stay faithful, and remember that you are being prepared for greatness. Divine timing is a concept that is often difficult for us to grasp fully. In a world where instant gratification is the norm, where everything seems to be moving at a faster pace, the ideal by God's perfect timing can seem frustrating, especially when it feels like progress is slow or even non-existent. But one of the key principles to understanding God's plan for your life is realizing that His timing is always perfect. God sees the bigger picture, one that we cannot always see. And He knows exactly when we are ready for what He has prepared for us. While we may be anxious for things to happen, we must trust that God is working behind the scenes, even when we don't see immediate results. When we think of timing, we often measure it based on our own human understanding. We tend to evaluate success or progress based on immediate outcomes. We may set timelines for ourselves, goals that we want to accomplish by a certain age, or milestones that we expect to hit at a particular stage in life. However, God's sense of timing is different from ours. His timing is not constrained by human limitations or expectations. Just as the seasons of nature unfold in their own time, so too do the seasons of our lives. There are times when it seems like everything is moving forward, and there are times when it feels like nothing is happening. But it is precisely in those moments of stillness that God is often doing His greatest work in us. We must remember that God is never in a hurry. While we may be rushing to reach certain goals or to see results, God is taking His time to prepare us for what lies ahead. The waiting periods in life are not wasted time. They are moments when God is aligning the pieces of our lives with His perfect plan. He is preparing not only the external circumstances, but also the internal condition of our hearts and minds. He is building our faith, our character, and our capacity to handle the blessings He has in store for us. If we were to rush through the process, we may not be equipped to handle the opportunities and responsibilities that come with the success we seek. Think about a farmer who plants a seed in the ground. The seed doesn't grow overnight. It must first be buried in the soil, often out of sight, before that's to sprout. The farmer must wait patiently for the seed to grow, tending to it, watering it, and ensuring the right conditions for its growth. Similarly, When God plants a promise or a vision in our hearts, it takes time for that seed to take root and grow into something tangible. The waiting is not a sign of delay. It is the process of development, of growth, of nurturing the potential that lies within us. God knows the exact right moment for the seed of your purpose to bloom and bear fruit. And he is making sure everything is in place before that happens. During this waiting time, we are called to trust God's plan, even when we don't understand it. Trust is a key component of divine timing. It requires faith to believe that God is working even when we cannot see the outcome. It requires patience to wait for the right moment to step into what God has for us. Trusting in God's timing means knowing that he is never early and never late. He is always right on time. Even when things don't seem to be happening the way we imagine, God is orchestrating everything according to his perfect will. The challenge for many of us is to remain steadfast and faithful during these times of waiting. We live in a society that encourages us to take matters into our own hands, to push and force things to happen according to our timelines. But when we try to rush God's plan, we often find ourselves frustrated or disappointed. We may take detours, or we may miss out on lessons that could have strengthened us for the journey ahead. This is why learning to trust in God's timing is so important. When we release control and trust that he is in charge, we free ourselves from the pressure of trying to make things happen. We allow God to do his work in his time, and we begin to see how the pieces of our lives are falling into place. One of the most important aspects of trusting divine timing is understanding that God's delays are not denials. Just because things are taking longer than we expected does not mean that God is withholding something good from us. In fact, his delays often signal that he is preparing something even greater. We may feel like we're ready, but God knows when we are truly receive what he has for us. Often we grow stronger and wiser during the waiting period. And when the right moment comes, we are better equipped to handle the blessings that are about to unfold. Another aspect of divine timing is the way it aligns with the purposes of others. God is not only working on your life, but on the lives of those around you. His plan is bigger than just one individual. Sometimes the reason we must wait is because God is aligning other people's circumstances or events to work together for our good. The timing may seem slow to us, but in reality, everything is falling into place exactly as it should. God's timing is also connected to his sovereignty. When we trust that he is in control, we can have peace in knowing that nothing happens by accident. Our lives are not a series of random events. Everything has been orchestrated with precision. As we trust God's timing, we grow in peace, knowing that he holds every moment of our lives in his hands. Trusting divine timing is a process of releasing control, practicing patience, and maintaining faith that God's plan is far greater than anything we could imagine. It's about trusting that God knows when we are truly ready and that his delays are not denials. The seasons of waiting are not wasted. They are times of preparation, growth, and alignment with God's perfect will. When we trust God's timing, we open ourselves up to the fullness of his plan for our lives, knowing that he is working all things together for our good. Change is an inevitable part of life, and it is something that we often resist. The desire for stability, predictability, and comfort makes change feel uncomfortable or even threatening. But what we must understand is that change is not just a force that disrupts, it's a catalyst for growth. Without change, there can be no progress, no new opportunities, and no transformation. God allows change in our lives because he knows that in order to move forward, we must be willing to embrace new seasons, new perspectives, and new challenges. The truth is, change can be uncomfortable. It challenges our sense of security and forces us to leave behind what we know, often in pursuit of something better. Think about the process of a seed becoming a plant. The seed must first be buried in the ground, removed from the comfort of the air and light in order to grow. This process is a picture of how God often works in our lives. He asks us to step into the unknown, to move beyond our comfort zones, and to trust that on the other side of discomfort, there is growth. We often think of growth as something that happens gradually, over time, but the truth is significant growth often happens through moments of radical change, times when we are forced to let go of the old in order to make room for the new. Embracing change means accepting the fact that we will face seasons where the familiar will no longer serve us, and we must be willing to adjust. This might mean letting go of certain relationships, habits, or ways of thinking that no longer align with where we are going. It might mean shifting careers, moving to a new place, or stepping into a role that feels unfamiliar. The resistance to change often comes from the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing control, or the fear of failure. But it is in those moments of uncertainty that God is calling us to trust Him more deeply. He has a purpose for the changes He allows in our lives, and often those changes are preparing us for the very things we've prayed for. The willingness to embrace change is also a sign of spiritual maturity. As we mature in our faith, we learn that change is not something to fear, but something to embrace as part of God's greater plan. Every time God leads us into a new season, an invitation to grow in ways we haven't yet imagined. The old ways of thinking, behaving, and seeing the world may no longer serve us in the new season. We must allow God to renew our minds and hearts so that we are prepared to step into what He has for us. This may mean challenging long-held beliefs, breaking free from limiting mindsets, or reevaluating our priorities. Embracing change also requires the courage to trust in God's timing and purpose. Many times we resist change because we are not sure where it will lead. But we must remember that just as God has been faithful in the past, He will continue to be faithful in the future. We don't need to have all the answers before we make a move. We simply need to trust that God is leading us step by step. In fact, God often works in ways that we cannot fully understand. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We may not be able to see the full picture, but we can trust that God is preparing us for something greater than we could ever imagine. One of the keys to embracing change is to keep a forward-looking perspective. Often we resist change because we are too focused on the past, on what we've lost, or what is no longer the same. But God calls us to look ahead, to see the opportunities that lie before us. In Scripture, we are reminded that God is doing a new thing. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:18-19. The past, while important, should not define our future. We must choose to let go of what was in order to step into what God is calling us to. Change also requires adaptability. We live in a world that is constantly shifting culturally, socially, and even personally. The ability to adapt to these changes is essential for growth. Adaptability is not about compromising your values or convictions. Rather, it's about being flexible in how you approach the challenges and opportunities. It's about being open to learning new things, adopting new strategies, and being willing to step outside of your comfort zone. Change often demands that we stretch ourselves, learn new skills, and adjust our approach. This adaptability is not something that comes naturally to everyone, but it can be developed through a mindset of openness and faith. Another important aspect of embracing change is learning to let go of control. Many of us hold on tightly to what is familiar because it feels safe. But holding on too tightly can keep us from experiencing the fullness of what God has for us. In fact, holding on to the past or to outdated ways of thinking can be a hindrance to our progress. God often calls us to let go in order to step into new opportunities. This requires a deep trust in His ability to lead us into something better. It also requires a humility to recognize that we do not have all the answers, but God does. Embracing change means being willing to grow through challenges. Challenges are a natural part of change, and they are not something to be feared or avoided. Instead, they are opportunities for development and growth. Every challenge you face in a season of change is an opportunity to develop new skills, gain wisdom, and build resilience. Challenges push us to become better versions of ourselves, and they prepare us for the future that God has in store. Embracing change is an essential part of growth. While change can be uncomfortable, it is a necessary part of the journey toward fulfilling God's purpose in our lives. It is through change that we learn to rely on God's timing, trust his plan, and step into new opportunities. Change forces us to grow, adapt, and become the people we were always meant to be. When we embrace change with faith and courage, we position ourselves to receive the new things that God is preparing for us. And in doing so, we can step into the fullness of our destiny. As we move through life, we'll often forget that God is always preparing us for the future. We tend to focus on the present moment, the circumstances, the challenges, the successes, and forget that there is a larger picture at play. We may be too consumed with the obstacles or difficulties in front of us to realize that these moments are not random. They are part of a divine process designed to shape us into the people God wants us to be. Everything we experience, both the joys and the trials, is part of God's preparation for something greater that lies ahead. Preparation often requires patience, persistence, and trust. We live in a world where we are conditioned to want things quickly, to expect immediate results. This mindset, however, is in direct contrast to God's way of working. His preparation is often gradual, unfolding in stages that we may not immediately understand. We may not recognize the significance of the lessons we are learning along the way, nor the experiences that seem insignificant in the moment, but in hindsight, we will see how they were instrumental in our growth. God works behind the scenes, often in ways that are not immediately visible to us, but he is always preparing us for the next step. Many times, preparation involves things we would rather not go through, times of challenge, discomfort, and even suffering. But in those moments of struggle, God is refining us. Just as gold is refined by fire, so too are we refined through hardship. This refining process is necessary for our development, strengthens our character, builds our resilience, and teaches us valuable lessons about who we are and what we are capable of. When we go through difficult seasons, we can take comfort in knowing that these moments are part of a larger plan, a process of growth that is leading us to something greater. The key to recognizing God's preparation in our lives is to develop an awareness that he is always at work. Too often we get caught up in our own plans and timelines, and we lose sight of the fact that God's ways are higher than ours. He sees the bigger picture, and he knows exactly what we need and when we need it. Our job is to trust that he knows what he's doing, even when we can't see the path clearly. In those moments of uncertainty, when it feels like nothing is happening or that we are stuck in a cycle, we must remember that God is working behind the scenes. His preparation is often invisible, but it is real. A critical part of preparation is the development of patience. The waiting seasons are some of the most difficult, but they are also the most transformative. We live in a culture that tells us that waiting is a sign of weakness or failure. We're taught to push forward, to always be striving for more, to never stop moving. But God's process often works in the opposite direction. He teaches us the importance of waiting for the right moment, waiting for his perfect timing. During these waiting periods, we are given the opportunity to grow in faith, trust, and patience. It is in the waiting that we learn to let go of our own timelines and surrender to God's. This patience builds our spiritual maturity, preparing us to handle the blessings he has in store for us. Preparation also requires us to make ourselves available. God will often place opportunities in front of us, but we must be ready to seize them. This readiness comes from both internal and external alignment with God's will. Internally, we must be in a position of obedience, knowing that God is leading us and that we must be willing to follow his direction. Externally, we must be equipped with the skills, knowledge, and experiences that will allow us to step into the next season of life with confidence and competence. Sometimes this means putting in the hard work of developing ourselves, whether through education, building relationships, or gaining experience. The preparation is not always obvious, but every step we take, no matter how small, is part of the larger process that prepares us for what is to come. Preparation also involves letting go of the past. We may find ourselves holding on to old habits, mindsets, or even relationships that no longer serve us. These attachments can prevent us from fully embracing the future that God has for us. Letting go of the past is a necessary part of preparation. It allows us to move forward without being weighed down by the baggage of old hurts, disappointments, or regrets. By releasing these things, we make space for God to do a new thing in our lives. We allow ourselves to be open to fresh opportunities, to new people, and to new experiences that will help shape us into who we are meant to become. As we move forward in life, we must recognize that preparation is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process. God is continually at work, molding us, shaping us, and preparing us for the future. Even when we think we have reached a place of stability or success, there is always more to learn, more to experience, and more to grow through. God never stops working on us, and he is always preparing us for what is ahead. This ongoing preparation should not be seen as a burden or a sign that we are lacking something, but as a blessing, a gift that allows us to become the best version of ourselves. The final aspect of preparation is learning to trust the process. We may not always understand why certain things happen or why we have to go through certain experiences, but we can trust that God is in control. He has a plan for us, and that plan is always good. Even when the road ahead seems unclear, we must trust that God is leading us exactly where we need to go. He is preparing us for something greater. And if we trust in his process, we will be ready when the time comes. Preparation is a vital part of the journey to success and fulfillment. It is through preparation that God refines us, builds our character, and equips us for the next phase of our lives. While the process may be uncomfortable or challenging, it is always for our good. As we trust in God's timing, remain patient in the waiting, and make ourselves available for his purpose, we position ourselves to step into the fullness of what he has prepared for us. God is always preparing us for something greater. And if we trust his process, we will be ready for the new season he has in store. In conclusion, the journey of life is filled with seasons of preparation, change, divine timing, and growth, each designed to equip for what lies ahead. We may not always understand the challenges, delays, or the need for change, but we must trust that God is at work behind the scenes, shape us into the individuals he created us to be. His preparation for us is deliberate and strategic, designed to refine our character, increase our faith, and position us for the future he has planned. Even when we face uncertainty or hardship, it is through these moments that God is preparing us for greater opportunities, greater impact, and a more abundant life. As we embrace each season of life with patience, trust, and faith, we open ourselves up to the fullness of what God has in store. We must learn to let go of control, surrender our timeless, and step into the new seasons with courage, knowing that God's plans are always good. He is preparing us for something greater than we could ever imagine, and it is in our willingness to trust his timing and embrace his preparation that we will walk into the new season he is preparing for us. Let's take heart in the knowledge that God is working in our lives even when we don't see it, refining us, growing us, and equipping us for his purposes. The new season that is coming will be one of greater growth, opportunity, and purpose. And when it arrives, we will be ready to step into it, fully equipped for all that God has prepared. The best is yet to come.